Good afternoon. My name is Cheyenne Meadows, and I'm the High Ability Learning Specialist at the Nebraska Department of Education. We are here with another session of the fall webinar series, Planning for Sustainability. And so today with us, we have James Klaus, and he comes to us zooming in from Rutherford County, Tennessee. Which, depending on where you're at in the county, is anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes away from Nashville. So he is going to talk to us today about some secondary services that are done in this county. And I had the pleasure of being in the same department with him. And I think what Rutherford County does for gifted students at the secondary level is amazing. And so without further ado, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Cheyenne. I'm glad to be with everyone here today. I've been doing this, I guess this is my 19th year in Rutherford County schools in this program, and we've seen changes over the years, but primarily it is designed as a program that deals primarily with their effective needs. As college preparation, the first year transition to high school is kind of the hidden agenda. And then after that, we have primarily college readiness type things. We do have a few students who choose not to go on to college. They're either going into the military or trying to go into the workforce immediately afterwards. And so we try to support them as well. But much of what we do for them is in the affective side. We have within the high schools, as I believe almost all do now, we have the advanced placement courses and those type of things, which we pretty much deem meet their, academic needs for the students. So starting in here, Rutherford County chooses to run its gifted education program under the auspices of special education law. Each school system in Tennessee is given the choice of how they want to do that. And some do it as a special education program. Others provide gifted services as a general education merit type program. And it's really totally up to the discretion of each local educational agency how they do that. Rutherford County is one of only about 5 counties in the state of Tennessee that actually has programming in place for high school students. Most of the counties in Tennessee stop formal services for gifted students at the end of 8th grade. So we do have IEPs for each student. The goals change every year as they need to. And we're structured as a twice monthly pullout program. Again, it doesn't focus on any academic area in specific, although we can and do try to help students with any and all of those issues they have. But we have no grades. We assign no scores to anything. We are purely a pullout. Pardon me. During the 4 years, of course, we have the individualized goals for each student, and we keep those. I have those in 4 different grade notebooks that as they progress through, I move them to the next notebook. And there are individualized for each student, but then we also do in general certain things. The 9th grade year is basically just looking at skills for success in high school. It's kind of a notion of the hidden agenda is making sure that they transition well. A lot of times, gifted students haven't necessarily had to work very hard to achieve the kind of grades that they want to in earlier years. And they may indeed, even when they get to high school, not really have to study too hard. But at some point, they will run into something where they say, oh my goodness, I've got to study for this. And they may not know how because they've never had to learn how to do it before. And so we can't teach them how to study, but we can give them a bag of tricks to reach into so that when they encounter one of those circumstances, whether it's 9th grade year or maybe not even until college, that they have some skills and ideas of, well, let me try this and see if it works for me. Pardon me. The 10th grade year focuses primarily on college major and career type exploration. The 11th grade primarily college and scholarship search. And then as a lot of colleges in our area, at least, have pushed their application deadlines earlier and earlier into the fall of the high school student senior year, we've started to shift some of our things that we do with regard to essay writing and things like that into the spring semester of the junior year as well. 12th grade year, the first semester, we're looking at the nuts and bolts of applying to college, applications for scholarships and admissions, essay writings for scholarships and admissions, interviewing skills. And then as they move into the second semester, we look at practical aspects of college life, dorm room budgeting, how to get along with a roommate, don't mix reds and whites so you get reds and pinks, just all sorts of different practical type things of that nature for them. It's an affective program primarily. What we do, we pull them on average about 2 classes per month on a rotating basis. We have shifted, unfortunately, to my mind, from 45-minute sessions to 30-minute sessions on the pullout. And that was done in part because during the COVID-19 shutdowns and then the distance learning and everything like that, there were concerns about bandwidth, and they didn't want us giving 45-minute sessions. And now it is pretty much standardized at that, which does pull them out of their classes from less time. And they are coming, in my case, from some of their academic classes on occasion. I give them a choice of which class they want to miss each time, because one time English may work best because they are not doing anything specifically in English that they can't miss, but in science they have a lab they're working on and they can't miss that. And the next time it may be reversed. So they choose each time which session they're going to come to of the ones I'm able to offer. And then we give the required IEP progress reports go out with the report cards. And also, I guess I would say here, since we're down to 30 minutes, a lot of the individualized work that we used to give them a little time to work on of their career exploration or their college major exploration that they're interested in, that has now shifted primarily to their having to do that outside of sessions because we're just pressed for time. Here you see a list of freshman topics, and I know some of you are driving, so I will kind of read them over. We do a 4-year plan, personal asset inventory. We cover characteristics of giftedness and thinking and learning styles, critical thinking skills, study habits, time management, note-taking, including trying to get them to write in cursive, which is usually a failing proposition, but we do try to encourage them to do that just because printing in a college lecture setting isn't going to work very well. We talk to them about verbal and nonverbal communication, procrastination, volunteerism and summer opportunities. Many of them do come into the freshman year with information about volunteer activities they've already done, but a lot of them haven't really done much of anything like that. So toward the end of the freshman year, we try to get them thinking about the fact that now as a summer is a good time to start involving oneself in some of those activities and getting them prepared, because that, of course, is one of the key things that colleges look for on a student's application, is a commitment to some volunteer service. We give them general college information, not a lot in the freshman year per se, just again, getting them thinking, for one thing, about the importance of GPAs and things like that, and how our GPA structure works here in Tennessee. And if they dig themselves too deep a hole, they're never going to be able to get their GPA back to the point where they can be in competition for the top scholarships that are public universities and private universities offer, and I'm sure that's the case everywhere. There are GPA requirements for those, and they're not very flexible. And then at every grade level, we do individual consultation with them.
I have a question about your
Yes,
previous slide. If so, something that I hear a lot is one of the biggest things we see here with transition is that idea of those executive functioning skills, those study habits, time management, those kinds of things. What are some examples of activities or things that you do in your seminars to help students with those skills?
right. Okay. For instance, with time management, one of the things we find that they don't even understand how they spend a lot of their time. And so one of the things we'll do is we have a personal time inventory that we ask them to, we give it to them and ask them to keep it for a week. And it generally is broken into 30-minute increments. And we ask them to take the same time each day, whether it's in the morning when they first get to school and they're not yet, they're in the cafeteria or something like that, talking to their friends, to pull that out and reflect back on the previous 24 hours and remember how they spent their time and their various activities. Keep that for a week, and at the end, come back and take a look at what they were, how they were spending their time, and see what they need to alter to maybe make more time for studying and things like that. With regard to note taking, what I will do is I will actually, for 25 minutes or so, give them an actual lecture. And from a college textbook about the origins of the English language, not super exciting for them. I think it's fascinating, but most of them are not really thrilled with it. But then we sit down and stop and say, okay, now pull out what the notes you just took, and let's look at them and see, did you catch and highlight the key points? Were you spending too much time on trivial things? Were you not catching the main points? Did you do a nice job with it? And again, not judgmentally, but now looking at this, and how would you actually take this and try to study for a test if this were a subject on it? So, and a lot of it is just exposing them to the notions of it, because a lot of times once they see the value in it, they'll start figuring out their own ways of doing things. Communication skills, we just, I basically just start talking to them about and having them think about the way they communicate with their peers, with their parents, with their teachers. Study habits, again, just making sure they've got a bag of tricks to reach into. Talking about how they take their notes, how they schedule their time, breaking things up into small components. A lot of procrastination comes for gifted students, of course, from the notion that I've got this notion in my mind of this perfect project that I can create, this great paper that I can write, and it takes a lot of effort to do that. I think one of the hardest things you can tell a gifted student is do your best, because their best is really very good. And when they see that and they see how much time, and think out in their mind how much time it's going to take to do their best, some of them shut down. And so I always try to say, do well. I said, you can pretty much figure out from the way a teacher grades after the first time you do something major for them, you can figure out what you need to do to get the kind of grade you want. And that'll be true for them in college as well. Does that help answer? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, indeed. One of the things I probably could do also is I can share Cheyenne with you, and then you can share them out to whomever you like. Some of the OneDrive materials that I put together for my students.
That would be amazing. Yeah, thank you.
I just have to make sure that I've got it set in such a way that nobody can see any students' names on them but me, but I don't think they can. I don't typically put student names on things in the OneDrive. So volunteers, I'm sorry, we covered that, I guess. We do, for our gifted students, we encourage them to take the PSAT as sophomores. And I mean, as freshmen. Then again as sophomores, and then take it when it's the junior year, when it also counts for national merit. We like to have them do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, it gets them more familiar with the test before it counts for them in junior year. And number two, it also, we tell them freshman year and sophomore year, don't guess on anything. And that's one of the hardest things you can tell a gifted student. You should not fill in every bubble. If you don't know how to do it, don't do it. Because if they guess and get lucky and get the answer right, then it doesn't show up as one of the things that they need to improve upon. And so the various Khan Academy resources and everything that deal with PSAT prep, their PSAT scores won't reflect the fact that they need work on that area. So we just tell them, look, just relax, and first 2 years, just go for it and see what you learn. It also requires some explanation to parents, because a lot of them, one of the criteria for us to admit our students into the program set by the state is that they have to have either, in terms of academic achievement, they can have, they get more points on the scoring matrix, 2 areas 90 percentile or above, or 1 area 95th percentile above for 10 points, 3 above 90 or 2 above 95 for 20 points, and then 3 above 95 or 4 above 90 for 30 points, which is the maximum points for academic achievement. And on the PSAT, students, freshmen are being compared to sophomores because not enough people take the PSAT as freshmen for any national norms to be developed. So we have to do some educating of the parents and tell them that your child is being compared to students who've had 1 more year of school than they have had, with students on a test that's designed for students that have had 2 more years of school than they have. So if you see a 40th percentile, when you're accustomed to seeing 90s and 95s all the time, that's not a bad place for a freshman to be better than 40% of high achieving sophomores that are intending to go to a really good college. That's kind of a good place for freshmen to be. So we kind of have to make sure they're aware of that. The sophomore topics, we have them start compiling resumes, and that carries through there to graduation for them. We look at having them identify what are some of the things that are important to them that they think at the moment, at least, about what do they want out of a career in a college major. We use the Keirsey temperament sorter. This year, it's going to be the first time we're using the online comp system that is done by edits. We've used the paper copies in the past. COPS is a work interest inventory, career interest, and then the COPES is the work values that come across from that. And we take those results and their thinking on the Keirsey and things like that, and then pull out resources like the Occupational Outlook Handbook and ONET Online, and start comparing their results with potential college majors and careers. And really, they'll find out that there's certain things that they already knew about that they were interested in doing, but they also see that there's some maybe other things that they might be options for them in terms of careers and college majors that they really hadn't thought about because they didn't necessarily know about them. And so from that standpoint, they then, especially on that ONET Online, because they love working with computers instead of books, that is a very detailed resource that they can really dig in about as far as they want to. We also look at the Dabrowski's overexcitabilities. And this is as much for the parents also as for the students, because I've had a number of parents over the years when I would send that in a quarterly newsletter or something like that as a link, they would say, oh, that's why my child does that. And so And of course, not everybody agrees with the Dabrowski philosophy, but it seems to work for a lot of our students. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself talking about the Book of College Majors and College Handbook, Occupational Outlook Handbook, ONET Online, and then individual consultation as needed there for sophomores. Sophomores also take the PSAT. We encourage them to do it. We don't require it, of course, because they do have to pay for it. We have a governor's school program. Does Nebraska have a governor's school program?
No.
Oh, okay. We have university, public universities. Students can apply for governor's school for the first time in their sophomore year to attend between the summer of between their sophomore and junior year. And then again, they have another opportunity in their junior year to do so. COVID-19 has severely curtailed this, but we always put together in the past, and will, I hope again, a spring campus visit for students. Typically, we stay here within Tennessee when we do that, both for transportation reasons, for school law here in Tennessee, and also because they like us to try to promote Tennessee universities. And I would think in Nebraska, that would also be something that Nebraska would want, the promotion of Nebraska universities. So, but we try also during those visits to give them, if we can do two schools that we can get pretty close together, or if we can't do it on a single visit, then on a fall campus visit the next time for that cohort that's beginning to move through there. If we showed them a large public university, we also try to show them a small private liberal arts college so they can get a feel for the different types of schools and how they feel and look to them. Because,
Go Belmont.
beg your pardon?
Go Belmont.
Yes, ma'am. Indeed. Junior topics, the testing beginning in earnest for them, and just how we can help them with that. Continue the resume compilation. We look at their personal criteria for college selection. Everybody has their own feelings about those. And one of the things we do have we have, of course, our IEP folder that stays locked in the cabinets, but we also have a portfolio folder for them for their entire 4 years. And we'll put, when they develop what is currently their 4 personal criteria for college selection, we have them write that down in a piece of paper, put their name on it, and put it inside the folder, because I'm clumsy sometimes to drop things and then I've got to get them back where they belong. But we have them thinking about what do they want out of a school, what would make them feel comfortable. Almost all of them, of course, are going to want the program that they want. It's great to go to an Ivy League school, but if they don't have your major, why in the world would you bother? And then, but other types of things, large public university, and what are some of the good and bad things about that? Small liberal arts college, why might they prefer that? And what's important to them? Is the climate of a location important? Just in general, all those different things. And then when they develop those 4 things, then, and of course they can change them anytime they want, but the notion is that helps them focus their college search to those type of schools. We try to have them narrow with our college search activities, to narrow their choices to 5 by the end of their junior year. That almost never works. Most students probably look at applying between 5 and 10. We do encourage students that are looking for what I would call special talent admission, music, art, drama, dance, athletics, to try to cast a little bit wider net than 5 schools. We usually tell them 10 is probably a good number for you, to maximize their opportunity to get some of those academic and or they'll get academic scholarships, but also we hope to maximize their opportunity to get some of those special talent type scholarships as well, because there are fewer of those academic ones. Yes.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you may have some students who aren't interested in going to college, and so this is where it would differ. Can you talk a little bit about the tracking?
Yes, well, to be honest with you, that almost is done on an individual basis with them because most of these students do intend to go to college one way or another. I have one young man, though, who is a senior who was never really excited about the idea of going to college, and he has decided to become a firefighter. And so with him, I'm just trying to have him, while the seniors are doing their college searches, I'm having him look at whatever the opportunities are at the Tennessee various community colleges and things like that, and the applied skill colleges. What are the trainings that are done for firefighters and things like that, and what can they get at the various Tennessee schools that deal with certifying firefighters and EMS and those type of things. So he's looking at that while other people are looking at, do I want to put, Princeton on my list of places I want to try to go. We also try to have them look at them in terms of a hierarchy of a dream school, a reach school, a solid school, a safety school, and a financial safety school. And since we live in a state university town, unless it's higher up on their list, Middle Tennessee State University is always a good financial safety choice, because while most of them would prefer to live in a dorm, if they must, they can live at home and get a good education for just about the smallest amount of money possible. And then we talk to them about what should be the various criteria for a dream school. Is basically, if they feel in their heart of hearts that that's where they should go and should be, then we tell them, I don't care what your test scores are, we don't care what your grades are, you apply there and make them tell you yes or no. But for the other ones, we try to say, it's not realistic to say that a school is a solid school if they have 1,625 spaces in their freshman class, and every year they have 39,000 applicants, and their 25-75 split on the ACT is a 32-34. It's really not realistic to say that that's a solid school for anybody. And so that needs to be either one of your reach school or maybe your dream school. And my current record is 26 colleges. Somebody applied to 26 schools, and I use that as an example every year of what not to do. And at first they're going, well, that wouldn't be that bad. And then I talk to them about the non-refundable application fees, and they do that math, and then they pretty much go, I don't think I need to do that. So anyway, and then the scholarship search via the internet and other resources, we have them look not just, most of their academic monies will probably come from the colleges to which they end up applying, but we also have them look at places like Scholar Dollars and scholarship.com and FastWeb and things like that, and try to have them come up with at least 5 other opportunities that they think for which they could apply and get some extra monies for things like books and those sorts of things. It's kind of, sticker shock for a lot of them when they realize how much college can cost. Again, COVID has kind of stopped this. We typically tried to have last year's high school graduates, we try to have them come back in the early spring of their freshman year of college and talk to our juniors and seniors about their experiences in their first semester of college. It's one thing when we tell them something and they kind of can go in one ear and out the other, because what do we know? But they really listen when the college freshmen, who of course they knew in the hallways and everything like that, come back and say, yes, that kind of really is the way it is, and you need to be prepared for it. We talk about stress and perfectionism in the junior year. We also talk about academic integrity. I didn't put that down here. Several of them will be going to schools that have honor codes, and we want to make sure that they are kind of prepared for that type of circumstance, and what that means, and how much trouble they can get into sometimes, even unwittingly, if they run afoul of an honor code at their schools. Again, national merit, PSAT counts for that, the junior year, pardon me, governor's school, and then the fall and spring campus visits for juniors. They're available, those are available to them for both of them. So again, we try to make certain that our students have options of getting to see different types of colleges and that sort of thing. And we always have a limited number of seats on those, because we're basically taking a school bus for the entire county of it. So we kind of have to first come, first served basis it. We do make sure that we have a little bit extra money on hand, so that if somebody really wants to go and cannot afford to, that we have kind of a fund that we built up over the years by rounding up to the next dollar what it was going to cost for things that we can usually provide for a student to go on that if they need to do so. Senior topics. Again, I hate to read PowerPoints, but I know some of you are not able to see this right now. Basically, the nuts and bolts of applying to college in the first semester. We have them, we point to them about some of the pitfalls of interviewing with my seniors. I just had that session this past time, and this time they don't know it yet, but they're going to come into the session. They're going to be paired off, and they're going to be interviewing each other with a series of typical interview questions for college. So, and then we'll critique how they did and see what they might want to improve. Finances and budgeting. You know, a lot of young people don't understand the notion that they need to be prepared to budget how they spend money when they're at college, and you know, what their kind of dorm room budget needs to be, and they have to be careful about how much money they spend all at once, so they don't have anything for the next couple of months. And then there's that phone call home to mom and dad going, can I please have some more money? And we're hoping that they can avoid that as much as possible. The College 101 in the second semester, pretty much all the different things about applying to college, or about transitioning to college, packing lists. I mentioned other things earlier. We do talk a little bit about campus safety and security. We use the various resources that the U.S. Department of Education puts out about such things. And we have other things as well that we can use that basically kind of get the young people thinking about the fact that they're not nearly as many, you know, they're going to be in college whether they are legally an adult or not. They're going to be deemed to be that by the professors, and the professors aren't looking out for them in the same way that high school educators are. I know here in Tennessee, and I think probably in most states, we have an in loco parentis relationship with our students, that we're responsible for looking out for their safety and things like that as much as we possibly can. That is not likely to be the case in the college to which they go. And so they're going to have to start preparing to take more responsibility for themselves in that area. So we look at that. Again, the college panel, the near peer mentors, and then the fall campus visit. We do not allow seniors to go on the spring campus visit. They should have already applied to their schools and be waiting to hear back. And so at that point, and we also kind of keep an eye on it to see if people are just trying to go on one more visit instead of getting out of class, because we know for a fact by that time we pretty much know to where they want to apply. And why in the world are you wanting to go UT Knoxville when you're not applying to UT Knoxville? let somebody who actually wants to go there try to have that space. So that's kind of, in a real brief overview, the type of things that we do for that. I'm not going to go over much of this, but I did want to show you one of the other things we do is try to coordinate a lot with parents. And because they're a lot of times, most of them in my group, they've been to college, but college is a lot different perhaps than it was. And so we've compared this, created this high school success PowerPoint that's basically both for students and for parents. And it starts actually in not just freshmen, but we actually go into the 8th grade classes, typically in the spring of their 8th grade year, and actually try to cover a lot of things with them. And if it's an after school meeting, we invite the parents to come as well. And we say, parents, here's what you can expect right off the bat in the summer of the year between 8th grade and high school. Be looking at some of these things, and we basically use the College Board's Big Future type activities for that. So I think I'll just go through the kind of the freshman year notion of the things we do. Summer plan, freshman action plan in the fall. This is things like high school counselor's role, homework tips, again, the studying piece, the benefits of extracurriculars, and what is the PSAT if the parents don't know, and why is it important for them to take it even in the freshman year. A winter action plan, introducing parents to the notion of financial aid, and then what the high school classes at colleges look for. The spring college search step by step, college savings calculator, how to stay motivated over the summer. We do with the students at the beginning of the year a 4-year plan in their freshman year, and we try to do this 9th grade column even at freshman orientation in the spring after we've had a chance to do those 8th grade visits. Each of us go to our own schools that primarily feed our campus. Now that does mean that some students may end up going to a different high school, but we'll tell them who their facilitator is going to be if they go there, so they know who to make connections with. But we try to kind of say, okay, these are the type of classes you might want to be taking in 9th grade. And then for me, during freshman orientation, I set up a schedule where the parents and the rising 9th grader will come with me, and we'll actually fill this out. And then I'll give these to the guidance counselors who go over and register at the middle schools in person. And they'll have that list of those for all of the 8th graders there, so they can pull it out. And of course, they can make changes to it as need be. But we're kind of wanting to make sure that they do things like right on the back, if they want to do IB or if they want to do mechatronics or something like that, that we've got them on track to do those things from the very beginning instead of having to change their schedule when they get here in the fall. We talked to them about graduation requirements, the various valedictorian and saluting requirements, why GPAs matter. And then this, what colleges look for in applicants is the IECA top 12 list, the current one, which was published in the fall of 2020. They do them about every 3 years. What colleges are looking for in applicants. And so myths about gifted students, and then character. Again, this is a more apparent thing, but I'll make sure that you all please take a look at this in more detail. And then it basically goes into the sophomore year. And I'm not going to go over all of that ad infinitum. But does anybody have any questions on any of those things right now? Okay. I didn't wait my 3 seconds. I'm sorry. I did want to show also, and I hope everybody can see that full screen. Yeah. This is a potential topics overview for the various things we might do, and it still says Spectrum on it, but that's what used to be the name of our program. Now we just call it Gifted Education. But I don't think I want to spend a lot of time talking about this, but this would just be some of the things that, as a student says, I need help with this, we would incorporate it into the various things that we do with them. Let's see, that tolerance should be one down. We introduced the notion of governor schools in freshman year. Resilience is one of the things our students, some of them have always been kind of brittle. And now with COVID-19, it seems like they're even more so, and that's not being judgmental, but they are having some issues. So again, many of the things in the freshman year are the hidden agenda is, are they transitioning successfully to high school? And if they're not, what resources do we need to connect them up with to try to help them out?
I do have a question about the resilience piece. So I've heard a lot of feedback in Nebraska as well that students are really struggling right now. They're kind of a mess from COVID. And so how are you handling kind of that resilience piece?
Well, basically, we had a book study that we did as facilitators several years ago. And in that book study, there were a number of different exercises. And I believe it was called the Resilience Mindset was the book that we used for that. And I think I want to verify that because quite frankly, this year, I'm so early in that with my freshmen, I haven't done much on resilience with them yet. And when we were doing distance learning, I kind of lost track of it. So unfortunately, that I don't have along, except to say that we just basically, there were a number of exercises they could do in that book, and we started working them on that. And then just carry on through with it kind of over the years to make sure that they're still staying that way. That's kind of a vague answer to your specific question. And I feel badly I can't give a better one yet on that, but I will get back to you with those exercises that we had for that, so you can share them out with everyone else.
Another question is also, I guess this kind of ties in resiliency. How often do you talk to the students about handling failure? I know, and especially in Rutherford County, if they're going from middle school, a lot of them go into the International Baccalaureate or some kind of advanced program where it's really difficult. How do they deal with the failure that they may encounter?
Right. Basically, that's more than not. I don't necessarily do that as a session topic with them. That's one of those individual consultation things where if they do start to have those kind of issues, they'll come to us and say, I need help. And we kind of find out from them on an individual basis what kind of issues they're having. See if we can help identify what's causing them to fail. Are they not? Is it a major project that they, had a problem with, and maybe it's because they didn't break it up into pieces and try to do it from there? Is it that they were procrastinating? And of course, that's one of the hardest things to stop them from doing. I wish I knew the answer to that one. I'd bottle it and sell it. But basically that we handle on a case-by-case basis, because a lot of our students sail through that with no problem, but then we have some that really have issues with it. And we find that's better on an individual basis. And then if we can't help them out, then we will get the guidance counselors. And we have a program here in Tennessee called STARS, which is Students Taking a Right Stand, which is another essentially an extra counselor for them. And then we also work as advocates for the students to their teachers, as well as advocates for the teachers back to the students as part of that individual role. Because often, sometimes a student will say, well, we're having an issue with this teacher, and then I'll just go and find out the other side of the story, so to speak. And oftentimes it's a question of each side not understanding the other. So it might be a communication issue or things like that. So, but again, mostly that's done on an individual consultation basis. The type of thing that teachers would do if they only had 30 students total to work with instead of 150.
We did have a question in the chat. When you're sending me resources, would it be possible to get examples of IEP goals that you write for students?
Yes, I can do that. As a matter of fact, if you all remind me, I'll pull up something. And of course, the IEP goals are individually tailored to each student, but I also have something that over the years I've developed called formats, because on an IEP, a lot of the things are kind of cut and paste type issues. But yes, I can send you examples of the type of IEP goals we would write. And what we do is basically on the goals I'll send you, we'll probably have everything that we could potentially do with a student during that grade period. It won't be quite as long as a list of these, for instance, in the sophomore year, but would have some of the key highlights of that. But we also have transition surveys that were based on Sandra Berger's, I believe, college planning for gifted high school students. And they take those every year. And then we pick key items from that where you say, I really need a lot of help on this. And then that becomes their transition goal for those type of things where they say they really need a lot of help. So I guess I need to send you some of those transition items as well. All right, anything else before I keep rattling on here? Okay. And then the junior year and senior year, the same type of thing. That's one thing that I just saw, perhaps you already knew about it. College boards are no longer doing subject tests, SAT subject tests. Were you all aware of that? They have stopped doing it. They said that AP is available enough to everybody that they're not going to do it. Now, I did not see that they were discontinuing CLEP testing, but if they're not doing SAT subject tests anymore, I wonder what that means for CLEP as well. Credit card debt, of course, is less of an issue now that the students cannot work or cannot get their own credit cards without a parent co-signing on it, but we still talk a little bit about those type of things. But I will leave that there for the moment. I wanted to show you an example of the type of just a quarterly newsletter that I sent out to them. This is one I just sent out to parents and students with some attachments, again, relying pretty heavily on the big future items that College Board has. And then what we've already covered so far, important dates. The Low Gomez Scholarship is something the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee does. That can help pay gifted students participation in summer programs or for IB or AP exams or those type of things. You may have something similar in your community. The Governor's School links just went active for the summer of 2022 this year. Various resources for parents and students, and then contact information. So it's pretty straightforward and simple to do. but it is something that, tries to, again, to keep parents in the know about what we're doing. The structure of the program itself, again, under Tennessee law, LEAs have the choice of how they want to run their programs for gifted students. And basically, all 94 counties of the state, under my last count, really don't do anything at all for gifted high school students. The State Board of Education has said they want gifted students to have access to and participate in some sort of project during their high school years, so that they're not falling through the cracks. That's kind of, again, one of those things. I hate it when somebody tells a gifted student to do their best. These students, especially if they're in IB or things like that, they have got enough to do without having an extra thing piled on to them. So we do comply with the state guidance on that in Rutherford County, but we do it in a very simplified way. Because if, like I said, I had a daughter in the IB program, and I know what their years are like, and they don't need another project thrown on them. Students have an IEP. Approximately, that means with their 2 30-minute sessions per month, there are approximately 14 sessions per year. And we're fortunate enough to have them be able to, I'm going to make that a little bit smaller and then bring it back up here. And I hope everybody can still see that. But we're fortunate enough to be able to meet in a computer lab so that they have pretty much access to everything we want to do of our online opportunities. Students are notified of sessions via excuse notes distributed via first period teachers, school email, Outlook calendar, meeting invitations, and via Remind. Your state may have certain requirements that doesn't allow them to use Remind or something like that. It depends upon, I'm sure, your social networking requirements in your districts. Quarterly newsletter. Gifted education parent nights in the fall we used to do. Again, COVID kind of stopped that. Individual conferences at the beginning of the year to share their summer experiences and concerns for the new year. And then a mid-year conference as well, and they can always schedule, and many frequently do, individual meetings with us. Seniors meet individually before winter break to make final adjustments to their college applications and everything like that. Then underclass students receive individual course selection support early in the second semester. That's prior to the actual formal registration process with their counselor. And again, it helps make sure that they're on track for their various programs that they are on. And then also, it's something that I make a copy and give to the student to take home with the parents to discuss. And then I also give a copy to the counselor so that when that student goes, they're still going to have the time waiting in the outer office before the counselor actually calls them in for their in-person registration session. But it really cuts down on the amount of time they're with the counselor once they're actually in the counselor's office, because the counselor can say, okay, do you need to make any changes to what you and Mr. Klaus discussed last month? And they go yes or no. And if the answer is yes, they make the changes. If it's no, say, okay, good, I've got what I need, thank you. And then they're back in class soon. After each session, I have a OneDrive, Office 365 OneDrive folder for each class that I have, and then graduating class. And then students who miss in-person sessions are also given a quote assignment, end quote, in Microsoft Teams with the same materials as are put in the OneDrive. When I set up the team as a class in OneDrive, I can actually track that they open the materials. Now, I can't tell if they looked at the video recording of the session and also are playing Call of Duty or something like that. But I can tell at least that they opened the material of the OneDrive, and then I can count them present for the session. And then if we have unanticipated school shutdowns like we did in March of 2020, then all of the services are delivered via the Microsoft Teams and the OneDrive so that they can see that. And this scary thing is an example of the way I track all my IEPs. And if you were ever in a circumstance where you all are going to be using IEPs, this was just something I've developed over the years that gives me all the information that I need when I'm sending out invitations, and also keeping track of whether parents have said they're going to attend or not, how they've let me know, how many times I've sent them notifications of meetings and that sort of things. Who the teacher is, what it's for, who the teacher is that's going to attend the meeting, whose class they're coming out of for the meeting, so that teacher can also be notified. Who the counselor is, homeroom teacher, Patriot activity time, and then some administrative information about what their test scores are and things like that. So that,
I am going to interject here really quickly. I apologize. For those of you, if you're thinking about using IEPs in your district, it is important to note that it may not look this scary and extensive, because you will not be you don't have to abide by legal timelines and the certain legalities of IEPs, because we are not going the IEP direction in this state. So if you use it, it'll be a much more informal process than this, which is the legal process through IDEA.
right. Thank you for that clarification, because yes, this is keeping track of that through because of all the legal requirements for that. So yours would be much simpler, would just be, whatever information you need to track to keep track of are you contemplating annual meetings with students on kind of a formal basis with parents and things like that, or is it going to be more of a general education gifted type situation, do you think? Or have those decisions been made yet?
There is no plans currently to put an individual education plan in the legislation at all, and so it's district dependent. So if the district would like to do an annual meeting with parents and administrators or a teacher, that would be really great. But I assume that most districts will do, if they have an individual education plan, it will be just to let people know what that student needs.
Got you. Okay, well, in that event, I will minimize that to at least I'm going to try to here. Yes, because we don't need that. Okay. I did also want to show you one other thing, and I'm just going to show you the types of things that when I go to a middle school that they're transitioning up to high school the next year. I have students fill out a list of contact information for their parents and for them. Give them, again, the brief overview that I showed you all, the topic, a 4-year plan. I have those copied ahead of time and try to get them to put their names on that and maybe fill out their first year if we have time. Some information about various things. Our IB sequence that we use here at Oakland High School. We also have mechatronics as a pathway done in conjunction with Motlow State Community College and Middle Tennessee State University. So that has a sequence of courses in it. Programs of study for pathways, the entire curriculum guide. And then for students, when their parents are coming for maybe in the spring for the freshman orientation, have a map of Oakland High School that tells them park here, enter here, that type of thing. Anything you can do to make it easier for your parents to connect with you, that's the type of thing that we try to do with them. I'm sorry it's been kind of flung against the wall, so to speak, but does anyone have any questions of me, of the various things I've talked about, or any other thing you'd like me to include in materials I send to Cheyenne?
I just wanted to note that for those of you who are looking to implement something at the high school level, something like this is really kind of a more easy lift than some of the other things that could be done. It really does. It doesn't have to be 2 times a month. We don't have any kind of requirements. So you could do it as frequently or infrequently as you need, and you can follow as much or as little of this as you want. And so it's really flexible, but this really does set students up for success and teaches some of those skills that maybe they haven't encountered before they get to college. And so I really want to say, I'm just going to speak highly of the district and what they do for those students. And thank you to Mr. Klaus for agreeing to come and speak with us and to share his materials with us as well.
Very good. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And I wish everyone every success as you start going through this process of deciding how you all are going to serve your students. And Cheyenne has my email address, so please feel free to share that with anybody who might have questions, and I'll try to answer them as best I can.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.